Last night, my home was in the path of a tornado. I was sitting in the living room, getting my fill of sitcoms and laugh tracks when it hit. One moment my living room was filled with stale laughter, and the next, it felt like a freight train was riding right over the top of my humble home. I quickly rose to my aching feet and looked out of the window. The sky was a stormy green, and I knew what this meant. A heavy sigh escaped my lips as I stumbled to the closet under the stairs where I kept my disaster bag, and I went out, exiting my home and making my way to the shelter buried in the yard. Strapping it around my shoulder, I briskly exited my home and looked around. My home was the only one for miles, surrounding an empty, desolate plain. Tornadoes loved homes like mine. Homes where you have to go out of your way to suck them up. I felt like it was Mother Nature's way of reminding us who is in charge. Looking out over the plains as I hurried to get to my shelter, I saw the cluster of storm clouds forming into a tornado. My eyes flicked from the clouds to my shelter, the latter of which was tucked behind my wooden shed. My shelter was buried deep in the ground and would withstand any storm. It brought me comfort as I rounded the woodshed and opened the heavy door. I looked at the clouds again and felt my throat get tight. I have seen many tornadoes while living in the verifiable middle of nowhere, but this was the first one I'd seen with arms and legs. It stood like a titan off in the distance, looming over my small patch of nowhere. It was then that I saw burning red orbs floating in this cluster of wind and limbs. The red spheres slowly trained upon me, and the thing began to move its large, spindly legs towards me. The creature's gait was akin to someone whose legs were put on backwards, as it had an awkward shuffle. The legs were impossibly scrawny and meek as it descended from a literal tornado, closing in on me. Each step conveyed a clap of thunder, and I saw electricity cracking in the wind within this Lovecraftian beast. Hurriedly, I fumbled with the door to my shelter and scrambled inside. There, I found myself in the dark, with dwindling lights coming from a small window in the door leading to the shelter. I pressed my reddening face against the glass and peered out. I could see the creature moving in on me still, and I could feel the ground trembling with each step. I said a prayer as the beast arrived right in front of my home. The being was large, larger than anything my mind could comprehend. Its dimension was unending, and it emitted a great blue hue, like the buzzing of electricity in the sky before a storm. Whatever it was, as it stepped over the top of my house, its foot was so large that it made my house look like a shoebox. It let out a thunderous laugh as the home I had worked hard for all my life ceased to exist. It then turned around to me, staring at it from the subterranean, and made eye contact. Its eyes were violent and red, like the core of a volcanic eruption. It meant business as it shifted its weight over my decimated home. It was then that I saw in the distance a semi-truck making its way down a lonely road. The truck captured the interest of the creature, ripping it away from me as it ran as fast as its gargantuan legs would allow. Thump, thump, thump. With each step came a clap of thunder. To his credit, the trucker tried to speed away, but I read somewhere those things really only go 65 miles per hour these days. The truck tried swerving away and even going off-road, mowing over hundreds of cornstalks as the driver desperately tried to escape. The monstrosity came upon the semi-truck as if it were an RC car speeding away from a petulant child. In one swift motion, the thing snatched up the semi and opened a jaw that had been previously unknown to me. Long, jagged teeth formed from lightning itself ripped away at the cab, and as the driver must have been devoured, a brief flash of red sprayed out of the creature's mouth. I winced as I watched this unfurl, and my knuckles felt like they were on fire as they desperately held the door to my shelter closed. I watched the creature finish its meal and then walk off a few more paces. Then, its body began to break down, and it began to dissipate before my eyes. Parts fractured off and ceased to exist, until there was nothing left but a fierce gust of wind. Tornadoes usually don't last too long. I'm thankful for that. I don't know what I would have done if that thing had stuck around much longer. The Red Cross would have never been able to get me out of my bunker. In the news, it's just been reported as another tornado in Tornado Valley. It seems like no one else was privy to what happened. Maybe I would have thought I was going insane. Maybe. But there's a missing trucker reported as being last tracked on his GPS on the road in front of my house. They can't find him anywhere. I know what happened to the man, and I know it must have been real. I think it's time to move away from Tornado Valley.